Where do you see the spending coming in this year, Samir? There's always calls all around for government spending on capex and mixed views on that. On one hand, there are reports which suggest areas like railroad power will benefit, and there are other reports that suggest perhaps capex has still been lagging behind, and will the government really have enough room to maneuver and spend as promised?
Actually, what I read very recently, I think it was a Credit Suisse report, if I remember, that the government has not been able to spend as much as the money that they have. So which I had not, I mean, I don't focus on these things day to day, but they said that 2% of, the Reserve Bank of India has some $60 billion or 2% of India's GDP in cash, which is lying on account of the government money, which is there, for which the projects may not be ready, or maybe the spending is not on yet. And the idea was that there is enough room to spend even the money that you already have in your pocket. So I think the issue here might be that the projects are not ready to absorb this much money. Instead of just saying that the government does not have money, simply because the government's fiscal deficit target is quite high if you don't look at it compared to the COVID time, but the pre-COVID time. To have 6.8% kind of thing, when we used to have 3.5% before. There is enough room if we accept, or the markets accept, that you are going to only go down gradually and not go back to pre-COVID soon. The thing is whether there are projects which can absorb this kind of money. Right now, it seems that that is the problem.
You said something interesting, Samir, just now, that you look at stocks which you can short before the budget. So were you alluding to names like, say, tobacco, which usually get a kind of a whipping before the budget? Or is it like the Asian Paints variety, which are expensive, which you also spoke about?
Yeah. So the thing is that previously we used to short tobacco. Now we have stopped because the stock hasn't moved up for many years. So even if they disappoint, I don't think it's falling few percent here or there. What I meant was sometimes in these sectors where manufacturing or infra, which in the olden days we would go long, saying that, if you remember, we used to have this great railway budget, and they would talk about security, spending on railways and switching systems, and everybody would start looking around. Now, actually, just to tell you the truth, this time I will not even be seeing the budget, because I'll be in a flight from New York to Singapore on that day. And later on, I realized that that was the budget day, and we concluded as a company and 2-3 other friends that it was not worth spending $500 for 2 tickets to change to be able to see the budget.
Oh, that tells us what you think of it.
That tells you.
But let me ask you about one sector which you have always been a fan of, Samir, which is the sector of the last few months, actually, IT. You know, they used to trade at 18-20p multiples, and all of a sudden over the last 2 quarters, I mean, or last one, and they've come up to some 35p multiples. So how, 30 then, how are you approaching this newfound confidence or growth optimism in IT?
No, so the thing is, that's what I said, the point is whether on a relative to India, relative to the world, in terms of comparing it to other similar stable compounders, longer term, say consumer staples. The thing is, your return expectations might change, but it still might be in the top 1/3 of Indian stocks. It's like HDFC Bank kind of story. You may say it is not the best bank, but if you have to choose 25 stocks in India, you will still choose HDFC Bank, because you know that in the end it will do well. I mean, for us, it's one of our top holdings. What I mean by that is that IT, your expectations of return might be lower, but they are currently in a sweet spot where you see that revenue growth for Infosys is in the order of 20% per year-on-year kind of numbers. For that scale and that size, it's a relative to India choice, but it is very good right now, I think.